Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the order of the Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13 regular school board meeting of Tuesday, November 18th, 2014. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Meyer. Here. Meyer.
Here.
Larkin.
Here.
Bardell.
Here.
Palmer.
Here.
Lee here.
Great, thank you. As is our custom, Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Core values in this district are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. Next agenda item is agenda approval, adjustments, announcements, correspondence. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move that forward.
Second.
Motion by Laura, second by Lori. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. Announcements, November 25th, Tuesday, 7 p.m. is a regular school board meeting here in the community room. November 26th, Wednesday, no school, district in service. November 27th and 28th, no school, district office is closed. December 9th, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., tenured teacher recognition here in the Family Center. December 9th, Tuesday, 7 p.m., regular school board meeting here in the community room. Superintendent Kelly, any correspondence this evening?
Mr. Chair, members, there's none at this time.
Great, thank you. Our next agenda item is communication to the board. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to the brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request that the administration follow up. However, the board will not take action being on request presented at this time. And looking out in the audience, I don't see anyone who wishes to speak to the board. And as part of this communication to the board, we have people who do want to talk, but they're later on the agenda. Next on our agenda, just wanted to clarify, is the consent agenda, which consists of this evening minutes of the October 14th and 28th school board meetings, personnel report, treasurer's report for September 2014. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Missy, second by John. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion is carried. Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda, discussions, reports, and information items. This is reports from members of the board. Board members may report on board activities since the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Anyone want to go first? Or should I just go? Go for it.
I always have something to say.
All right.
It's actually been a busy couple of weeks. I had several correspondence with a constituent about a policy, and I believe that we'll be addressing that at some point in the future as a board.
Okay.
I also attended the 9/16 board meeting where we had a presentation about various things that were happening at the legislature and how it would affect various plans throughout the district. So that was very interesting. I also attended the EXU meeting, and I really wasn't totally familiar with EXU, but I'm very familiar with a lot of the programming that that our students are able to participate in. So it definitely gives our students an opportunity for additional educational experiences, you know, like the Future Cities competition. And so I'd like to actually find out more about that program. So I plan on attending some more meetings. Today I attended the Karner Blue and Metro Heights tour, and it was really awesome to be able to actually see kids in the building. Even though there were 100 students in the building, it felt like there were 3, which is just incredibly amazing. It's just a beautiful, beautiful program, and it's very successful. very, very successful. One of the high points of it was the reduction in injuries to both the staff and the students because of the new safety features. That they've actually only had one incident where there was a loss of work injury. That is not normally the case in these programs. So that's in and of itself has been just wonderful to see, because you don't want to see anybody getting hurt. So that was great. And then I was over at Metro Heights to see the success that's happening over there. It seems like they're pretty much at capacity now, and they're serving a lot of the kids here in Columbia Heights. St. Louis Park has also come on board. They've moved their program over into the ALC, and then Fridley's also participating. And I guess apparently students can self-enroll and self-select into that program if they choose, so they can come from pretty much anywhere as long as they can get there. But since it's located on the bus lines, it's very accessible for a great deal of our students from all over. And they provide either a non-traditional school setting or the support they needed to make up credit so that they can graduate with their class. So that was very awesome, and I don't know if I missed anything, but I'll move on.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Yep.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Lori?
This last weekend, I attended the MSBA pre-delegate assembly session. So I have a book, if anybody, and I grabbed an extra one in case anybody is interested in reading all the resolutions that we will be voting on for MSBA to take forth to the next legislative session. So if you're interested, the majority of the resolutions, I would have to say, are probably around finance, and there's some things around technology and some things. And then also, I think at our session, somebody had suggested about possibly, as part of the assembly in December, the meeting, that maybe prioritizing some of these things, that group would do that. So everybody there might have the opportunity to prioritize. So if anybody would like us to, pick something as like the top 2 things for MSBA to kind of focus on. I don't know if we'll get the opportunity, but the suggestion was made, and they're going to possibly pursue that. So other than that, a few conversations with some of my fellow board members. So thank you for your time and the work study session, and I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Ted?
I was also at the pre-delegate assembly last Saturday, and I guess I would just add, the reason for prioritizing was brought up is that there are a number of resolutions that are asking for quite a bit of additional funding for districts, and the question was, how likely is it all of them will get passed?
Yeah.
So if they don't all get passed, which ones are the most important? And that's why we would prioritize. But and then I also attended the chamber luncheon on teacher tenure. That's actually a hot issue out in California, so that might be something that we would look at, or it's coming down the road possibly. So a very interesting development there. And then attended a meeting at WEMAP, a board meeting. WEMAP, the West Metro Educational Partnership, is still trying to focus on how to best restructure so that it provides the most benefit to the member districts. And there are a number of possible options. The board's still trying to work through those options, including what to do with, whether to focus on professional development, continue to focus on the schools as laboratories, just taking a look at the whole picture and seeing what's best for the future of WEMAP and how to best serve the members' districts. Talk to constituents this past couple of weeks. I was at the listening session right before the work session today. We did have one person come, so that was great. And then also was at the work session prior to this, and then attended a couple Lions meetings, talked to constituents there, and I think that's it.
Great, thank you. John?
I was part of the canvassing of the votes last week, the listening session with Member Landwehr, the work session. Had the opportunity to go to the high school play Our House this last weekend. Kids did a phenomenal job. And then last night I was at the high school band and choir concert, and again, it was really fun to see. It's not as painful as it was listening to my kids when they were in 5th grade as it is when they move up into the high school level. So it was enjoyable to listen, so, and I think that's about it.
All right, thank you. I was also at the band concert last night, phenomenal job at the high school, so really enjoyed it, and band and choir. I don't want to leave out the choir. I'll focus the rest of my report on the AMSD meeting of November 7th. And we had former mayor of Minneapolis, R.T. Rybeck, there. He's the executive director of Generation Next. And what it is a coalition of civic, business, and educational leaders that aim to close the achievement gap and opportunity gaps for students of color in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I'll just quickly read over their goals. Our goal is that every young person ready for kindergarten meets benchmarks in reading by 3rd grade, as we've all heard. You know, that's an important gate right there. Meets benchmarks in mathematics by 8th grade, another important gate. Graduates from high school, ready for college and career, and earns a post-secondary degree or certification. And how do they do that? His opinion is, when you boil it all down, because there are lots of programs working on this, you know, private, public, et cetera, and he boiled down is we just lack alignment. There's enough resources, we just need to align them, which was sort of his opinion on the issue. Anyway, very good speaker, very passionate about this subject, the achievement gap, and hopefully Generation Next will use their resources to get the alignment they think they need and help all of us. I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing in reducing the achievement gap and increasing, as he would say, the opportunity for all our kids. So, all right, with that, Superintendent Kelly.
I have no report tonight, other than I would like to tag on to Member Meyer and Landwehr's and Lee's discussion of the delegate assembly resolutions. And the admin team is going to look at those this week and weigh in, and we'll put something in the update for you. We pulled them off, we just didn't quite get to them all. So we'll try to have that by Friday.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we're going to have the Highland Elementary Building Vision Card, and with us this evening, Dwayne Burgess, our Director of Teaching and Learning, and Michelle DeWitt, our Highland Elementary Principal.
Chair Bardell, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board, pleased to be here with Principal DeWitt this evening. I had a chance to talk with Michelle a little bit about some of the work that's going on that she'll talk about in her presentation to you, but I know that there are a couple things that I didn't see there that I think should be highlighted, and so if she does add those in, I'm stealing her thunder, but a couple things I think that just really reflect the good work that goes on there. One, a reminder that they were recognized in the Star Tribune as one of the very few non-charter public schools that are beating the odds and in reading, and so that was good to see, because I do know there's a lot of work that goes into that in the building, good work. The other thing was a phone call from her just last week, and we have in our buildings the Minnesota Reading Corps, as do many schools across the state of Minnesota. The state of Wisconsin is now looking at developing a very similar program. They needed a school to go and show the delegation from Wisconsin how the Minnesota Reading Corps works, and they called Principal DeWitt to see if she would be willing to have them come to Highland Elementary. A big compliment for a program that's recognized, I think, as working as a really valuable one. So I think just indicative of the good work that goes on at Highland underneath the leadership of Principal DeWitt. So I'll pass it to her to go through that with you.
Good evening, Chair Bardell, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to review Highland's strategic plan. Again, Chair Bardell already went through the mission. Our core values are community excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. And I'll go right into our report. Last year, I presented a 5-year trend on enrollment, and this year I have a 6-year trend I added this school year. Right now, November 18th, we're very comparable to the top of the 2013, 2014 point. We were at, I think, around 545. Today, we increased to 543. So it's really, enrollment is very variable, kind of a day by day, kids moving in, moving out. So very comparable enrollment to this year as well. Our demographics, because I presented last March, the strategic plan from March to today, really the demographic data has not changed because they'll do new demographics with the October 1st information. So again, very comparable with our largest ethnic group of Black students, followed by Hispanic students at Highland, which is very comparable across the district. Oops, excuse me. Our free and reduced lunch, right now Highland is 83% free and reduced lunch. That could change, probably not substantially, once we have the new information from October 1. Our demographics for EL students, right now we're at 36.6% EL students at Highland, again, very comparable to our percentage last year, and 10.6 special education students. Going into our MCA data, really our scores, I'll go through the highlights of the scores in math, reading, and science. These are overall when you combine 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. In math, we increased by 2 percentage points proficiency. In reading, we stayed exactly the same. We were at 46% proficient. And in science, what I would consider a highlight, we were 10% higher from the previous school year, which I'll attribute to the really strong work by our science teacher last year, Marie Burke, as well as a really strong effort of the 5th grade team, really working at increasing the amount of time they were spending in science in the classrooms as well. So a nice gain in our science scores. I know that you'll be getting the strategic roadmap this evening as well, so I'm not going to go through any of the points here. I'll wait for, or you'll get that on Director Burgess's and Director Hennigan's report today as well. But I'll go right into the scorecards for Highland. Specifically in A1 through A4, we were at level 4, which is progressing in each of these areas using articulated standards-based curriculum, is in 85 to 89% of our classrooms. Licensed staff actively engaged in PLCs, again at a progressing level with 70 to 89%. All of our K through 2 teachers are in PLCs this year around math. So they are doing the bulk of their work off-site as far as the professional development, but then we come back on campus to our building and have follow-up PLC meetings that occur minimally at a monthly basis, sometimes bi-monthly, depending on how much work we need to do. I also work with that team. So this year's model, a little bit different than 2 years ago when grades 3 through 5 went through Region 11. We do meet as a full group, so kindergarten through 2nd grade, we're able to really share the information that we're doing across those grade levels, which has been, I think, great as far as the standpoint of seeing what each grade is teaching. The use of formative student learning data to differentiate instruction, we're at baseline with 80% to 84% of all classrooms using regular formative instruction or formative assessment to differentiate instruction. Use of effective teaching strategies resulting in student engagement and learning objectives through walkthrough protocol. Again, we're at level 4 with 81 to 89% of all teachers having strong engagement during walkthroughs. In the area of multi-tiered intervention, we're at level 2. Highland has multi-tiered intervention, strong intervention in the classroom, although we do not have a set-aside intervention time, so we are at 75 to 79% of all classrooms using a multi-tiered approach. For behavior, however, we're at a level 3 for multi-tiered intervention for behaviors with responsive classroom in all classrooms and building-wide. Presence of STEAM integrated into curriculum and classroom instruction is at level 2 with 20 to 29%. In part, Highland has engineering in grades 3 through 5 through science, but not a strong presence of engineering in the primary, although we did add some engineering to our second grade this year, thanks to Director Berkvis for the purchase of engineering as elementary for grade 2. Participation in the arts, we were at level 5 vision. The gap in our participating groups, we were at level 4. And parent engagement in points of contact, which even though it's a level 4 still progressing, I feel is a very strong point at Highland. We have multiple opportunities for parents to engage in our building with monthly events that we are inviting parents to, as well as a strong volunteer program and PTO. Next, we're looking at MAP growth. So this is our measures of academic progress within our building. So it's a nationally normed assessment, however, given in our building just for our own use. So for MAP growth in math, we were at level 3. So actually, we're at the top of level 3 with 64.4% of our students meeting their annual growth target. In reading, we were also at the top of the level 2 with 53% of students meeting their growth target. And then the difference, so that's the achievement gap, the difference between groups, between the highest group and the lowest performing, we had about 20%. So we were close to level 4 in that area as well. I'm actually going to, I'll start here, I guess. I'm going to jump down to B8 because similarly, we were at level 4 between the gap on the MCAs as well. That's part of the reason why Highland was one of the schools selected, as Director Burka said, with our performance based on our free and reduced lunch, as well as the performance of our demographic groups. There was about an 18% difference between our highest performing group and lowest performing group in reading and math on the MCA. So better than what you would expect with the demographics that we have. On the MCA reading, we were at level 1. We were at 54% proficiency. In math, we were at 60% proficiency. I'm just thinking off the top of my head because I didn't write down the exact amount, so it's a level 2. In science, we were at 40% proficiency. That's just the 5th graders assessed. And again, the gap is between 15 and 24%, so a level 4. This is our referrals and our behavior data. The difference between student groups and referrals was at a level 3. So again, we're looking at the differences between how many referrals we have in each of our ethnic groups, and we're tracking that. We were between our highest and lowest between 20 and 29% difference. And then out-of-school suspensions, last year we were at about, I think, 45 or 46 out-of-school suspensions for the school year. So well below the 350 for vision. The committees, I purposely put this picture in case you have not seen the new Dean of Students at Highland. This is Julie Meyer, who's our new Dean. She started this August. But the committees that we have at Highland, we have our Leadership Committee, which encompasses technology, a very strong Equity Committee, Culture, Climate, and Community, Parent Involvement, grade levels. I put that on there because this is really how we meet our PLC work at Highland. Responsive Classroom, and our Student Assistance Team, which is SAT and Child Study, really working on interventions and special education. Some committee celebrations, academics, and Dwayne already shared one of them that we had, but the other academic highlight that I wanted to share was just our strong science results. That really was a purposeful area that we were looking to improve in, with an increase of 10%. Parent involvement, we continue to put a lot of effort into parent involvement at Highland. We are, again, offering volunteer training at Highland. We have that as a prerequisite for volunteering. We have monthly family involvement opportunities, and they're all very well attended. Our open house by far was one of the most well-attended open house opportunities that I've had since I've been at Highland this year. But we did move our end of the year picnic to open house. So we also drew in a lot of people for that. We have monthly either movie nights, family nights. We just had our turkey bingo. 2 Fridays ago, we sold 200 tickets or 200 bingo cards. We estimated about 300 people in attendance for turkey bingo. A very successful event. We have moved ice cream and books to the end of the year, so that'll become our new end of the year celebration. We have a strong fine arts program at Highland. We have a very well attended fine arts night with both visual arts presentation and concerts. And then our family picnic was at open house. Equity is another strong committee at Highland. We have many staff on our equity committee, and some of them are on there by choice. They're required to do one committee, but many staff want to be part of our equity team. So they do facilitate 3 of our staff meetings per year. And the staff meetings at Highland are not just a general meeting where we talk, but it's actually professional development where the staff is learning. So, for example, at our last equity meeting, we were looking about equitable conversations with students, and also about use of language with students. Many of our equity team members have had the opportunity to attend trainings through WeMap and also take part in a book club around developing their own skills with equity. Our responsive classroom committee also does staff meetings, so they facilitate at least 3 staff meetings a year. They plan all of our all-school morning meetings, so we have those monthly. And they also plan we have 2 walkthroughs at Highland per year around responsive classroom. So it's an opportunity for teachers to go around and look at how responsive classroom is being implemented in all of the rooms at Highland. And then our technology committee, as I said before, is integrated into leadership. But we do have an integrated technology project at every grade level. Initiatives, certainly leadership, we just are continuing to work on planning and delivering professional development to support all of our initiatives at Highland, which are academics, equity, and responsive classroom are our main 3 at Highland. Parent involvement, again, we want to grow our volunteer program at Highland. We also implemented excuse me, grade level curriculum nights this year. So in addition to our open house, We had a curriculum night designated for each grade level K through 5, and those were very well attended. At each grade level, also very informative for parents. So we had lots of positive feedback. The teachers of the at each grade level went through the curriculum. So for example, at 3rd through 5th grade this year, we implemented Literacy by Design for reading. It's a new curriculum for students and families, so really walking families through what they could expect with this program and homework, which was very important to do as you adopt new curriculum. Our equity committee continues obviously to dialogue around race. We review monthly student data. We look at our discipline information. We have different outings that staff attend. We have opportunities for staff to put up information. We have an equity bulletin board to share articles that people are finding in the newspaper or different professional development that they've attended. For responsive classroom, again, our main focus is to be a really cohesive school and to reduce the number of behavior referrals that we have. And then for culture, climate, and community, our main initiatives here are we do plan a World Culture Day every spring. So it's a full day event. We have many visitors, whether they're parents. We've partnered with the U of M for World Culture Day, different parents that come and present. We also, this committee plans our Student of the Month activities, Honor Roll, and I Love to Read Month. So February is I Love to Read Month. There's lots of activities that happen during that month. Our goals, I'll take that opportunity to cough, sorry. In literacy, by spring 2015, the goal on our MAP test, which again is our in-house assessment, is to have 60% of our students meet or exceed their growth targets. So for our fall to spring last year, we were at 51% of students meeting their growth target. By spring 2015, 60% of Highland's 3rd through 5th graders will be proficient on the MCA. Spring 2015, we were at 46%. Our SMART goal for math, again, on the MAP, which is our in-house assessment, we hope to be at 70% of our 2nd through 5th graders will meet their MAP growth target. Last year, we were at 66%. And for proficiency on the MCA, we hope to have 60% of our students proficient. This year we were at 54%. Our SMART goal in science, we hope to have 45% of our Highland 5th graders score proficient on the MCA science test. This year we were at 40%. So again, hoping to increase from where we were at last year. The picture that I selected here is our November Student of the Month to show that we do have the students are recognized with a certificate when they earn Student of the Month. We take a picture, post those pictures in the school, as well as put them in the monthly newsletter. We are trying to really highlight the students doing a good job academically as well as behaviorally in school. Our hope for math or for behavior is to reduce the number of students sent to the time to think room by 5%, and by June 2015, we will maintain referral incident levels of Black students at an equitable level. So for last year, which was one of our worst years in probably our last 5 years, we had a very high percentage of Black students receiving office referrals. So it is something that we have now. We used to look at our data quarterly. Now we're looking at it monthly to really identify students who are our frequent flyers. What we discovered at the end of the school last year is we had about 20 students who made up about 80% of our referrals. So we're looking at trying to reduce those frequent flyers and get them into programs so that they can be successful. And just a few pictures to show our community. We do have a strong partnership, as well as some of the other schools in Columbia Heights, with the Lions in Columbia Heights. They're excellent donators and volunteers at school. So this is bringing apples for the staff, the upper left-hand picture. The upper right-hand picture is one of our students enjoying being on the netbook or student computer. The lower left picture is a student, he's just about ready to get into a math game that he was going to be doing during math time, and then a student working on some reading work, and then a few boys reading. So kind of the highlight of academics, as well as the volunteers that we have in our school. Questions?
Questions, comments?
I'm just curious, when you come up with these SMART goal targets, how are you basing these targets? I mean, because I see, it doesn't seem to be like a certain percentage up. I mean, I know eventually we want to be,
Right.
what step, I mean, I know a lot goes into it, but whenever you're setting these attainable goals, how do you factor in, additional time that's spent and so on? So I'm just getting.
Right, really looking at a lot of factors, because for us it is a combination of looking for MAP, which is our growth. So it's looking at where the students started in the fall and where we hope to have them in the spring. And again, just like MCAs, the corporation that writes the program, they will set these growth targets. So they'll have 4 levels. So you can have lower than expected, you can have a working toward, you have a meet, and you have exceed. So we hope always that we have our students in them meeting their growth target or exceeding. It's difficult for, as you know, to really know how many more students that we can push into that meets or exceeds category. So we look at, what has been our trend. So now I'm up to 6 years of data looking at how much we're increasing based on, the time and people, the man hours that we're putting into each of these academic areas. And certainly reading is always a focus of ours. We, in the primary a couple of years ago, went to 90 minutes of reading per day. And that does work to increase our number of students who meet the growth targets. It's more difficult as you get older and as you become a better reader. You may move up, but maybe not enough to meet your growth. So let's say you were a 212 in the fall and you need to be a 220 by spring, and you were a 218, you didn't meet it. So MCA is a little bit different. Again, we're looking at a lot of factors, from how do we do comparatively to other schools that have similar demographics that we have. We look at each individual cell, how our EL students doing, how our special ed students doing, and because we have a singular goal, we're trying to combine all of these. And
It sounds like a real trick. I knew it was going to get an answer like that, so thank you for indulging me. But I would, one of the things in our work study presentation, we're actually teaching more as far as reading is concerned. We're spending more time on it than the recommended level at the state level, so thank you for that.
mm-hmm. And even now, I would say in grades 3 through 5, when we take in the amount of time that we're in Literacy by Design, which is our new curriculum, 60 minutes or more a day, plus a half an hour of writing time, which now writing is prepackaged part of this curriculum. We're at least 90 minutes there as well. So we're hoping to really see good results with the new program.
Any other questions, comments?
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, next on our agenda excuse me, is strategic direction A and B. Expand access and opportunities by turbocharging what works, and innovate to close the achievement gap. And we have Brian Hennekens, our Director of Technology and Security Services, and Dwayne Burkus, Director of Teaching and Learning.
Chair Bardell, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. Our Director Burkus and I are here to talk about strategic direction and specifically Vision Card A and B tonight. As always, our mission to create worlds of opportunities for every learner. And when we look at our core values, strategic direction A and B. B deals with a lot of data, and A deals a lot with what the things that we're doing, some specific things like STEAM or 21st century learning. And when we're looking at data, where we start with, we really have to be courageous and look at that data and really and analyze it and figure out what is it really telling us. And sometimes the data is not as good as what we want it to be, so we have to be courageous. We're always trying to innovate when we see that data and get to that next level and achieve that excellence in academics that we want for all of our students. I think in the next slides, you'll kind of see when we start looking at our demographics, some of the challenges that we have in that area to achieve that excellence to the level where we want to be. Currently, we have about 74% of our student population in a minority population. And when we look at our free and reduced, it's a really telling tale. We're close to 80% free and reduced, 79.7. This is right off the state site. And look at our EL population. And when you look at it compared to the state, our EL population is about 3 times more than what the state average is, and our free and reduced population is double what the state average is. So obviously there's some challenges that we have to overcome, and I believe a lot of the work that we've been doing is really focused in those areas. And I think for the next part, really getting actually into the data, which I'll turn it over to Director Burkus to talk about.
Yes, thanks, Director Hennekens. We do work closely with technology, with the Personalized Learning Initiative, and just in so many ways that technology assists us to do the work that we do in our classrooms. And just going through this, we do have quite a few different boxes here, so I'll try to linger on some but move quickly through others. Michelle DeWitt, Principal DeWitt, talked about some of these as well. There are some that are just for secondary, but the use of articulated standards-based curriculum, obviously we want to be standards-based. Big push to make sure that we're using technology to keep track of that. So the program that we use is called Atlas. It's an online system for us to make sure that our instruction, our curriculum is aligned to state or national standards. The licensed staff engaging in PLCs, we're pleased to see this continuing to grow. We have a strong PLC program now at the middle school, where they've been really going at it for several years now. You saw from Principal DeWitt that they meet 2 to 3 times a week at her school. So we've got lots of good work going on in our PLCs. This is PLCs being professional learning communities, basically where teachers can engage in discussion, as opposed to just being those lone palm trees out there on their own, learning from each other, helping each other. Use of formative assessment, this is another place where technology has had a real positive impact. The formative assessment, I think, is one of the big things that comes with increase of technology. The personalized learning that goes on to middle school, for example, with our devices, that formative assessment is so much more efficient to do. Use of effective teaching strategies resulting in student engagement. We measure this through our walkthroughs. Pleased with the data that we get back. Most classrooms with most teachers, the data on engagement is very good. It also helps us identify those places where it may not be and be able to be strategic in helping try to change that. Presence and use of classroom-embedded 21st century learning. You know from our discussions with you that this has been a focus of ours, a real push within the district. Now with our life skills, I think we are really including those in 21st century learning, something that I believe our teachers are embracing and using thinking about it in new ways, using new strategies to make sure our kids are learning skills that are important for the 21st century. Percentage of evaluated teaching staff at the basic proficient for non-tenured and proficient. You can see again that that is an important component. We take our evaluations very, very seriously. We want to keep and improve the very best. The presence of multi-tiered interventions. Interventions basically for kids who aren't at grade level. So what are we doing? We usually try to tier in 3 ways. Green, kind of that bottom tier of color code saying it's you're fine, yellow being you're not quite there, and red meaning you have a long way to go. You'll see that we have about 80 to 84% of our kids who access those interventions. The place where it's hardest to do that is at the high school. Our middle school, virtually any student, I should say all students who need intervention in reading math are able to receive it. Presence of multi-tiered interventions for behavior. Again, Student Services has done a lot of great work with this in terms of making sure we do have support as well for behavior for those students who need it. Presence of elements of STEAM in classrooms in grades K-12. This is an area where basically by STEAM we're talking about engineering, and you'll find that there's more pockets of this than there are entire buildings doing it. So at the middle school, for example, we have our engineering rooms. At second grade at Highland now, there's engineering. The place probably that has the most widespread across the building is North Park, which has really gone after engineering as something that all kids will get in their building. Presence of achievement via individual determination, or as we call it, AVID, strategies in grades 9-12. This is one place where our strategic plan is actually showing a little age because now it's should be really K-12 with our addition of Valley View and soon the addition of Highland as well. Parent involvement, student achievement, in terms of student achievement, how are they accessing the information that is there for them? Are they talking to their teachers about their students? Are they making sure that they do their homework? 60 to 69% of parents, I will say though, that this is a difficult measure to know exactly how accurate it is. I think Principal DeWitt talked about this as well. In some ways, we're doing really, really strong in this. In other times, we probably wonder if there's parent involvement in terms of what's going on at home, in terms of making sure that they do things like their homework. Harder to measure what that actually is at home. But I know you'll have more information about the many, many good things going on in parent involvement as well through Student Services. Participation in arts activities and athletics, 45 to 49% of our students are engaged. This is grades 1-5. Unfortunately, this is one that you probably will see drop next year with the loss of some of our after-school programming, but this reflects the last year. 6-12 participation in arts activities. You can see that we have strong participation when you include all of our athletics as well as the arts. Lots of great things happening after school in our district. The participation gap between our students, between 20 to 16%, something again that we'd want to reduce over time. And then another parent engagement measure in points of contact, grades E12, examples, attendance at student events, volunteering in schools, PTOs. And the way we measure this is parents surveyed self-identify more than one point of contact with district beyond conferences. So basically what we're trying to make sure is our parents are the only time that hopefully conferences aren't the only time that they're having conversations, meeting, talking to administrators, teachers, those who work in our buildings. This last one, I have to apologize, participation in early childhood programming. This is one that I don't have the measure for this tonight. I was working on it with Director Stunkel, and it got away from me, not her, so my apologies. I'm not going to pretend I know what it is, so it's not there because of that. So our overall strategic vision card, you can see that there was a 3% gain overall. This is really a measure in the first part of our strategic plan on implementation. What are the programs that we feel are important and how well are we implementing them? So we're hoping to see improvement over time. Certainly though, there are some things, as I mentioned, that there are changes too that take place naturally over the course of, I guess it's now 4 years of the strategic plan. The next piece though is really where we get into test data. And we have talked to you about our MCAs. We've given you data in a different format. This format is really to lay that data onto our own grid that we've made in the strategic plan in terms of having our own level of where we want to be, and then saying, but here's where we are. And so, again, you'll see things like MAP, growth, and you'll see in the first two boxes there that we have this for elementary and secondary in terms of the math growth for both 55 to 64%, in reading for both our elementary and secondary, 45 to 54. And maybe this is one area where I'll just add a comment. I will say that as we look at the challenges of our district, reading is a tough area for us sometimes to really get a complete handle on all of the different ways that reading can be a challenge to students. It has a lot to do with vocabulary, the number of words that a student knows. It has a lot to do with the background knowledge that students have in terms of bringing that knowledge to whatever is in front of them. And because of the vastness of vocabulary, and how much knowledge the world expects from us, this can be an area it is an area of great challenge in terms of closing the achievement gap and saying, okay, we have students who have a need in both of those areas, not to mention just the cracking that code that all students have to do in terms of what do different letters sound like, how do I put them together to create words or to read. So you'll see, I think, as we go through this, that we continue to work to close that gap. There's in this B3, there is less than 10% difference between any student group to target. And we'll say, though, and just to be transparent on that, the gap in some ways is in part due to the fact that we want to move everything higher. And so that gap is not as great, in part because we need to shift that entire dial upwards. Curriculum-based measurement, 50 to 64% of our students doing that on a weekly basis. When you get to the MCAs, you'll see that our minimum that we wanted to hit is still not there. And you saw what our percentages were earlier this year. I won't go back through all of that data. We made growth this year in all but one of our schools in reading and math, but we're still growing, and we still need to get better. And you can see from where we're sitting in terms of our strategic plan that we're still in that red zone. And so, and that includes reading, math, and science. The gap to standard for students, again, it's better, but again, that is in part because we need to move the entire dial. So, perhaps not surprisingly, as you go up and look at ACT, Plan, and Explore, these tests also are going to indicate that we have growth that we need to make. We have not all of our students, again, taking the test, but at the moment, the measure of 4 content areas is sort of a standard measure is how ready are kids for college. This looks a little bit worse perhaps than it is. The national average isn't much more than that, I think it's around 25%, I believe, maybe 30. So it's not that there is huge percentages of kids that do hit all 4 of those content areas. It's a fairly tough thing to do. The ACT participation, this one, it was 25 to 40% of our students this past year. Of course, this one will be 100% at the end of this school year of our 11th graders, so that will be changing a great deal as well. The next part really deals with behavior, and I think that the first one, you'll see the number of referrals, and I think you can see when it's just listed in numbers, I think sometimes it's hard to know what should be a good number, what isn't a good number. I can say this, I guess, that when we looked at our schools, as far as the number of referrals, maybe not surprisingly, we continue to have the greatest number at Columbia Academy, and we have been working on that, continue to work on that, but the referrals obviously are in the red and something that we need to continue to work on if we want our academic dial to go up as well. The differences, again, you'll see here, we do have a greater than 40% difference. I think Principal DeWitt alluded somewhat to that. The achievement gap, there is also a behavior gap, and it's a significant one. It's one that we struggle with in each of our buildings, and we need to be able to close. The out-of-school suspensions then reflect that continued work. The advanced placement participation, we have about 20% of our students who are taking at least one AP test and score 3 or better. Again, that we would like that to increase, and we have been increasing the number of students taking it. As we increase the number of students taking the test, though, we also need to make sure that they are achieving that 3 or better. On track to graduate rate, 80% of our students on track per grading level, per grading period, I should say. Graduation rate, we're right around that 75th percentile, so it's not like we're far, far below, but we're just right on that edge. We're not in the top 25%, but our graduation rate is actually, we're doing quite well. We're still slightly over, I believe, the state average, excuse me. Post-secondary enrollment, 50 to 59% of graduating students entering into post-secondary options within 1 year. This was we had the MDE out to talk to us about SLEDs a few weeks ago. We are pleased to see that in a period of time when the state average, average for graduating classes entering post-secondary remains the same, Columbia Heights grew by 12 percentage points. So that was good to see since 2008, 12 percentage point gain. And then college entrance rate after a readiness program, achievement AVID, and you can see 90% plus. So there's, again, that's actually could say 100% for us. So you can see that in this area we had a drop of 4%, and we can point to a couple of places. I think when we talked to you about MCAs, one significant place where we did have a drop was in science at the Columbia Academy. We did have gains in most schools, in most areas. That was our most significant drop. We did have one drop in math at North Park as well. And I believe in this area, as we look at our overall score, obviously we need to do better, and it's I believe 2 areas though that we really can say, okay, so what are we focusing on? Where are we going to really assert from a district perspective our efforts to make this improve? 2 things, I think. One, the Columbia Academy Continuous Improvement Plan. We hope that we can bring this to you next week, actually, when we meet, when we come with the Columbia Academy Vision Card to talk to you about our plan for that. The There's some great things that are going on in the academy, and we want to improve on those, and then we have some new things that we are hoping can have a significant impact on both behavior and academics there. The second point, though, I think is the big one, and this is where I think we join the rest of the state, maybe the rest of the country, in a very challenging goal. One for our district, though, that takes on added importance because of the number of students that are coming on free and reduced lunch, or students of color in this district. And so closing that achievement gap really is the work, the challenge, where tremendous amount of thought, energy, effort go on a regular basis to really raise that achievement level for all kids. So, I think, though, it is hard sometimes with the way our strategic plan is laid out to really get the context of all that does take place. There is context. Not all districts start at the same place. You are your students. You are your families. You are your all the wonderful things that come with a marvelous district like ours, but that also bring challenges. And so I think it is good to know that our district has been recognized when they look at us and compare to like districts, and had noted in multiple occasions this year achievement here was noted, that we were beating the odds, that we were worth noting in, I think the high school celebration eligible status, for example, is just one of many places that we've been recognized for really closing the achievement gap, even if it is ever so slightly sometimes that it feels like, but it is the challenge for our district, and it's the one, though, that I believe energizes us to say, okay, this is a big job, but it's the job we want. It's the job, these are the kids that we want, and this is the work that we signed up for to help close that gap. So that's our report on strategic plan A and B, and I know you may have some questions for me. Yeah.
Questions, comments?
I just want to say I appreciate your candor, and appreciate the fact that we are measuring all these things, and to know where we need to improve, and then coming up with strategies to improve them. That's a big step. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for taking on the challenge, and thanks for also sharing the good news, the recognition as well. So I think, that tells the whole story of the district. So,
Okay.
thanks. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one thing. I hadn't mentioned it earlier, but I was at the state board meeting, and when we talk about our story and the accomplishments that we make as we walk through our strategic plan and see all the recognitions, people are talking about us all over the state. And everybody is talking about the good things that are happening in Columbia Heights, from the Iron Range to southern Minnesota to the east and west side. So it's something that's really exciting, and everyone, this whole administrative staff and the students and everything should be very, very proud. Matamita sat at the table and said, if you have an opportunity, go see Columbia Heights, because they're an amazing district. So at the end of that, when you're talking about that, that's some of the things that are brought to my mind and that I'm very proud of. So everything we're doing a good job. So thank you very much for all your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. That's great. I know that our teachers, our principals, our district staff work very hard, and our students, yes, I should say them first, work very hard. And I think that's encouraging to hear, because we need that too. So thanks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing you don't see when you have general statistics like this. You don't
Right.
see the individual really shining bright stars. So
Right.
can't forget about those.
Yes, there are some really bright stars. On our district day coming up on the 26th, where we're inviting some to come back and talk to us and just talk about how they got through our high school and into college, and because there are just some amazing kids out there that came through this district, and it's been fun to start reconnecting with some of those to learn those lessons from them. So, yeah, we need to remember them as individuals. Yeah.
We do have a student that I saw that's leaving after his 5 years, and he actually talked about Columbia Heights too this last weekend at a large banquet, and so that's kind of nice. And
Yeah.
like you say, when you talk about those stars coming through, I think
Yeah.
you have to bring them back and maybe use them as mentors.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right. Next on our agenda this evening, Parent Services. The board will be presented with information on Parent Services. We have Nicole Halby, our Director of Student Services, Jane Reardon, our EL Family Engagement Coordinator, and Marcia Walker, our Educational Support Coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Bardell, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. I'm really delighted that we're offered the opportunity to come and share with you all this evening all the exciting things we're doing in the areas of family engagement, parent services, and communication. And we thought the best way we could demonstrate it is to show you all of the hard work that these two coordinators here, and I'm telling you it's these two coordinators, with assistance from Director Mahon and Director Hennekins for the technical pieces, put together, though, to develop and enhance our websites to make it friendlier for families to access. And we've been getting a lot of feedback from people and tweaking it and moving things around. But as we were working on it and they were showing me all the great work they did, I said, gosh, I knew we were doing so many wonderful things in the area of family engagement and the services we're providing for families, but to see it up on the website, it was really exciting. So I'm going to turn it over to Marcia and Jane, and they're going to walk you through and help you navigate through the website so you can see what we're really offering for our families. Marcia.
Thank you, Chairman Bardell, Superintendent Kelly, and members of the board. Bringing this to fruition has been, it's a 3-phase project. So we're going to show you the first phase tonight, and then we'll talk about phase 2 and phase 3. So when you go into our website, the district departments are here, and what we've done is we've taken the Student Services Department and brought all the good things, like Director Hallaby had said, under the umbrella of Student Services. Some of these sites existed before under other links on the website, but weren't under the umbrella of Student Services. And then we also added content that are relevant to the good work that we've been doing in our department. And so you look, we have a front page now of Student Services, and our title is Meeting Students' Unique Educational Needs. Student Services helps develop engaged, motivated, and high-achieving lifelong learners educated for success in the 21st century. And consistent with the other sites that the other departments have built, just having a visual picture of the department, individuals was something that was added to the site as well. And on this site itself, you can see there's 8 buttons at the top, and this is where we brought together what you were saying, Director Hallaby, is the good things that we've been doing in student services into one site. The Placement Center existed before on the website, but that is part of Student Services, and Jane will be speaking to family engagement and English learners. Health Services also existed on another part of the website. You can access that on the front page under Health Services. It's also under Families, but we brought that to Student Services, and we did update some of this content on the website. So I don't know if you've looked at it recently. The immunizations, Are You Ready? We now have that available in English, Spanish, and Somali. The immunization record itself has been updated, and on this site we also added the Columbia Heights Public Schools Chemical Health Services, which existed, Chemical Health Services, which existed in another spot, but brought that together under the umbrella of health services. So the next tab on the bottom, all 4 of these tabs, Special Education, Section 504, Homeschool and Homebound Instruction, are all new content. Under the Special Education site, there's 4 other places to, that content that we added to highlight, and that's our Early Childhood Special Education Programming. I don't know if you want me to scroll down so you can see.
I think just click through some of the other ones. If you go to section 504, it explains, and we have links and tabs so that you can get to further information to statute, and same with the homeschool. It gives you the contact, which is my administrative assistant, Barb Erickson, as well as state statute and regulations and the forms that you need to fill out. Homebound instruction, the same thing. It explains how to get your doctor, a medical form, what kind of form to fill out. If you click on the placement center, Marcia, that for new parents now can go in and one-stop shopping. They can click on there and get the forms they need to fill out, what they're going to frequently ask questions when you enroll your child, what do you need to bring to the placement center. So it's really helpful, and a little bit about every one of our schools so they can see, oh, my student will be going to Highland Elementary, that's what that school's about, and you can go to that link. So we're really trying to add enough content that everybody gets their questions answered that they might think of. I really appreciate how Marcia and Jane, as they were developing it, they thought, okay, if I wasn't an educator, if I didn't work at this school and I'm a family, what would I look for, or how would I think about that? So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. And always at the bottom of every page, if they don't find the content that they want, it'll give them a name. And, if you have further questions or basically you don't understand this, contact whoever. So not to budge in there.
No, that was good. Phase 2 will be taking this link, which is Bullying in the Safe Schools, and we click on that right now. Oh, well, that happens sometimes, doesn't it?
We're not connected to the internet yet. That brings you to the MDE page, talking about the new Center for Safe and Supportive Schools. But what we want to add on in addition to that, not just to get to the MDE page, but what we're doing specifically in our school to support kids. Also, one of the pages on there talks about if you feel, your child is being bullied, the social worker to contact in your building, report to your principal, and then we'll eventually be able to attach the forms and everything that we need. Right now, the forms are on, if you drop down to school board and look up policy 514 for bullying, it has the form attached, but families aren't always going to think to go to the school board to find the policy, right? Read through the whole long policy and find the form. So we want to make it quick and easy. Oh, gee, bullying, here's the policy, but here's the form, so that I don't have to go through everything. So that is part of the phase 2 we're going to do.
And then phase 2 will also be developing more our school and community resources. So now we have our urban liaisons, school social workers, police liaisons, and some helpful links for families.
Go down to the bottom of that, because I'm really excited about that. We looked at some other school district websites and saw that their community links that they had, and so we got a few ideas, but we felt we have even more community. We work, of course, very closely with SACA, with ACAP, with other Anoka County community resource line, which is kind of a one-stop shopping that if you live in Anoka County and you're like, oh my goodness, I need whatever. So we felt we had put some really helpful resources for families with their phone numbers and addresses on the bottom of there.
So that'll be phase 2, along with adding more resources for parents for students with disabilities.
Good evening. So, my part of the website really was looking at migrating the English learners page over from teaching and learning into student services. And there are certain components of EL pages that have to be on there that we have to have. So we do have those, and we did sort of put in some more cleaner language about our programming as well. And then, of course, we have all the teacher contacts for our EL teachers. And then family engagement. This page really talks about family engagement in terms of a program. So we talk about the REACH class, you know, what kind of, in terms of our family engagement program, what are we providing? And all the cultural liaisons information. There's also a family engagement committee page on the intranet where teachers are looking, you know, it's a Google page, and so that they are sharing best resources with each other. It's not really as much for families. Then for phase 2, for this, over here on this side, you can see there's these parent education, all these links here that are really also for parents that talk about college prep nights, resources for pre-K, REACH, and so we really want to streamline all of that because we know that parents are going to come in at many different points on the website, and anywhere they see the word family or parents are probably going to click, so we want to make it as streamlined as possible.
And then just finally, phase 3 will be developing an internet more robustly for teacher resources for working with students with disabilities and the collaborative efforts that we have now with working with English language learners and students with disabilities. Thank you.
Thanks. Questions, comments?
I think this is great. Glad to see that you're adding more resources for families. I think this, you know, we look at what the strategic scorecards, to me, it seems we need all the family engagement we can get with, especially helping with reading and early on developing those reading skills with our students. So I'm glad to see we're stepping in this direction. I know I've seen a couple other districts' websites that have a very robust parent services portion. So I think it's something that districts are offering that I'm glad to see we're stepping in that direction.
Well, we definitely have a good team here that are really reaching out to families, as well as our urban liaisons. We have a parent specialist for 612, all of the teachers that are volunteering their time for REACH, and working with PTOs in all the buildings. I think everybody's really committed to reaching out to our families in the community and making them partners with us in educating their kids, because it's really important. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your hard work. This looks great. Family engagement is huge, parent engagement, and getting the kids involved too. I really, really am looking forward to the bullying part of it and getting that phased in, because I think it's really important that parents have that access, so they didn't maybe, or what they fear of talking to someone, that they can go right there and get whatever information they need. So I'm looking forward to that, and thank you very much for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
And fewer clicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think user friendliness is really a key, and it's glad to see that you've tried to make that more. We've heard so much about customer service, you know, and the more we can make our resources customer friendly, the better. The other thing I want to mention too is engagement in terms of parent education. A lot of parents don't know how to educate at home or to help their students progress. So having that education part for parents is really key. So I'm glad to see that too.
Very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Case.
All right. Now we're going to talk, Nicole is still up. We're going to move on to the agreement with Northeast Metro 916.
Chair Bardell, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. Every year since I've been in the district, and even prior to my tenure, so for more than 12 years, we've been fortunate to be able to be a member of Northeast Metro 916 and be able to purchase related services that would be difficult or impossible for us to get on our own. For example, we have physically and other health impaired about a need of a 0.2 FTE for our district. We have physical therapists, a need of a 0.5 FTE. Some of these positions called related services, which are like speech and language therapy, occupational therapist, physical therapist, other health impaired, et cetera, autism, are very, very difficult to get. There are very few people who hold the licensure, and when you start to have districts that have small FTEs, it's almost impossible to fill. So we're fortunate that among other many services that we get from Northeast Metro 916, that they also offer us recruiting and staffing and hiring and parceling out FTEs between and among the member districts. This year, you were able to get a copy of, I believe, Mrs. Hoyam, or a copy of the agreement. They've seen it?
Yeah.
Yep. This year, because the state, when they audited their books, just said, you know, it's best practice to actually have it in writing, the contract for the related services. So this would be the first year that we've actually received a contract, but this has been a practice for many, many years. So just wanted to let you know that that contract is now just going to be a formal record, but it is absolutely nothing different than we've been in a relationship with them in the past.
Questions, comments for Nicole, 916?
Director Hallaby, will this be voted on then?
Yes, thank you. It will be an action item at the next board meeting, but I just wanted to inform you a little bit of the history and background of why it's coming before you as an action item at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I think we're all familiar with 916 services, and so, Laura?
Oh, I always have something to say. The services that we get through 916 are extraordinarily beneficial for our district, because we're not a big district, we can't actually, we would not be able to adequately meet the needs of our students. This is sort of like a timeshare. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. So it's great to be able to access everything from the technology to the interventionist and even specialized programs. So being able to, and also assessments too as well. Although I think we do a lot of assessments in our district.
We do the vast majority of assessments in our district, but occasionally if we have a very complex case, we use their assessment center.
Yeah, so it's wonderful to have that resource. It's nice to see it in writing too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Nicole? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, move on to some, our action items this evening. The first action item is Columbia Academy Spanish class field trip. Board will be asked to approve the Columbia Academy Spanish class field trip, and we have Dwayne with us again.
Chair Bardell, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. I was here with our Spanish teacher from the middle school, Marie Nelson. She kind of did a recap of the great trip they had last year and made the request to take the trip again this year. In March, it would be an overnight trip to Concordia Language Academy. It would be for her 8th grade Spanish students with fundraising that they will do, and that our Office of Teaching and Learning then will work with Columbia Academy to ensure all kids who have done their work to fundraise are able to go, even if they may fall short of making enough money. So we'll remain committed to the to all kids being able to access these opportunities if they do the work. So I'm here tonight just to ask for your agreement for this to take place.
I have a motion to move that forward.
Second.
Motion by Ted, second by John. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Dwayne.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Next on our agenda, board book renewal. Board will be asked to approve the renewal board book. Brian Hennekins, our Director of Technology and Security Services.
Chair Bardell, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, as we do every year, we've been using this product for several years to manage all of the documents that the school board has. And every year the renewal comes, it's about $2,000 per year. We purchase through MSBA. I recommend that we continue with this product. It continues to create efficiencies for us, and again, with all the documents that we produce. I have before you a recommendation to approve it for another school.
A motion?
year.
I'll move that forward.
Second.
Motion by Missy, second by John. Any discussion? Yeah.
Do you think this product still is the best product for us? You know, I don't know if there's other school board.
There are other
documents.
products out there, you know, some have pluses and minuses. You know, you have to look at long-term total cost of ownership of them as well. They are continuing to make enhancements to the product, so it's continuing to move forward. It's very cost-effective for us. There are more expensive ones out there that may do more, but I think we're getting a good bang for our buck right now for how we're utilizing the tool.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion?
MSBA does use this also and does recommend it, so it's a good product.
Good to know.
Just curious, do we get a discount because we're MSBA members?
I think they set the rate for purchasing this through them back when we first did this, when they first made an agreement with it. So I think that discount has been applied, the price has stayed the same. Is this the 4th year that we've used this? 5th year now? 5th year now we've used this? So the price has stayed the same the whole time, so I think that is our discount.
Okay, great.
Right?
Another
Further-
benefit of MSBA.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
Any further discussion on board book? Hearing none, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Next in our action items, amendment of resolution be congruent with election abstract. Board, we ask to amend the resolution, make the write-in ballots number congruent with the election abstract. We have Dawn Hoyam, our election clerk. Hi, Dawn.
Good evening. Chair Bardell, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. Tonight, we're asking to amend the resolution that the school board election results to be congruent with the abstract on the part of the write-in ballots only.
Do I have a motion to move that forward?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Missy, second by Laura. My understanding is that is for the write-in candidates, and it was from 94 to 96.
Correct.
Something like that. Okay. Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all's in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next action item, board policy, second reading, is 402, disability non-discrimination policy, and 806, our crisis management policies. These policies appeared on the October 28th meeting for a first reading. Approval will be sought at tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion to move that forward?
I'll move that forward.
Second.
Motion by Laura, second by John. I received no comments on these policies that are posted. I don't think anybody else. All right. Any discussion on these policies?
It looks like these are just pretty much required by federal and state statutes,
Pretty much.
so. Just want to make that point for the public.
Yeah, no, good point. All right, hearing none, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Board topics.
I did want to mention that the superintendent of WEMAP, West Metro Educational Partnership, Lester, would be available to address the board at some point about what's going on there if we wanted to get more information directly from him, so. He's met with, I think, 5 other member district school boards.
Probably a good thing to consider.
Be a really good idea.
Yeah. Any other? Yeah, John.
Comment more than a topic. I just would like to take this opportunity to thank the entire community for supporting the levy questions that were approved on the ballots. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll do good things with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also would like to piggyback on that. I got a lot of phone calls in the last week just saying congratulations and thank you for all the good things that are happening here in Heights, and they're happy about the levy. So a lot of people calling and commenting, so I think that says a lot. So I agree with John, thanks to the community for supporting them.
Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
the information.
Yeah, I'd like to thank them for their trust, and it certainly makes me feel like we need to use that money as wisely as possible because of that trust.
All right. Any other topics this evening? Hearing none, we can adjourn at 8:30 PM.